All right, I think this is our number 4, our final one. Belgium is up. You can see the North Sea here. You can see France, Germany, Netherlands. All right, so you get an idea. It's in Northern Europe. And this was a question years ago about what happened is, well, up in Flanders, they are closer to Germany and Holland, or the Netherlands. They speak a Dutch type of language, all right? And then the Wallon, they speak Flemish up in Flanders. And they have industry, they have shipping. Down here in the south, they're closer to France, they speak French, but they are farmers and they're poor. Huge animosity towards each other. All right, as a matter of fact, when the terrorists attacked Paris, when they just went down the street with machine guns and were just shooting people, they were actually from here, from Brussels, but the police here had an idea about it, but they didn't communicate with the police down here because they're Wallonians, all right? And we're obviously not going to communicate with the French. And it wasn't spite or anything, it just was they didn't think to share information. So since those terrorist attacks, they've actually had to park a lot of their animosities towards each other and work together, which I think is good, okay? Alrighty, so that's a possible question on the AP test. Are you ready?
Yep.
You're up. Oh no, I actually have the next one. All right. Very generally, I don't want to steal thunder of the next slides, but we're going to talk about languages that are potential of dying, all right, and what countries are doing to preserve their languages. We already talked about the Basques somewhat, but there's other isolated languages. And then lastly, what countries are doing to even grow their languages. Okay.
So here in the U.S., we have 161 languages that are in trouble. 142 languages that are in trouble, and then 61 that are considered dying. Now, if you look at the map, if you just got this on an AP test, what would you notice? What's the common theme here? Hopefully you would pick up that these would be areas where there might be a lot of native populations, a lot of Native Americans. And one big reason why languages are dying out in the United States is because a lot of these native languages are passed down orally. There's not a written tradition, and so when grandma or grandpa passes away, the language does too. So in this chart, they're showing us how many total are in trouble, how many total are dying, and you can see 1,531 down here are in trouble. And what that means is essentially the parents, they can speak the original language, but they're just not teaching it to the next generation. Okay, we consider languages dying when that generation that's having children is just completely unable to teach it then to the following generation. Okay, if you look closely at the chart, what you notice is areas like the South Pacific have some that are the most in trouble or the most dying. Okay, also up here in Latin America, you can see lots that are in trouble or dying, and you're like, well, why? What's the commonality here? Well, these are lingua francas, huge languages, right? What languages are spoken primarily in Latin America to do business or to communicate or to trade or to have, even magazines or media? Spanish or Portuguese, okay? So what happens is Spanish or Portuguese becomes the dominant language, and those other smaller languages tend to get used less and less. Down here in the South Pacific, it would be English. Okay, so the native languages get spoken less and less and less until they're in trouble or potentially dying out. All right, so here we are in Wales, the northern parts of England, okay, way up here. And Welsh is a very interesting language. I encourage you to go and Google Welsh, just to hear what it sounds like. It's very, very unique. It comes from Germanic language. So the Germanic invaders came in and they spoke Welsh, and the Germanic invaders came in, and that word Welsh or Wales was like a Germanic word for foreigners, okay? But Welsh was pretty much the dominant language until about the 19th century, when the Industrial Revolution hits, and coal is discovered in this area, and factories start to go up, and so a lot of English come over and they am I right on that? Okay.
Yes, mining, yeah.
Okay. No, I was thinking the direction. They come up.
It's
Right.
it's pretty much, it's right off of Ireland. I mean, you're right, it's in the northern part, but more middle, and they're just coming
Okay.
over to work.
So all the English folks are coming across, and they're working. They're mining coal. They're working in the factories there, and then English starts to become the dominant language. So what the Welsh have done to preserve their language is they've made laws that making Welsh mandatory to be taught in schools. The BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, they have to give news in Welsh along with English. And so they're making strides to try to maintain the language, but even with that, only about 73% of the people who live here speak Welsh.
All right. And if you watch The Crown, there was a wonderful episode where Prince Charles has to go there. He's the Prince of Wales, and he's got to learn Welsh, and basically to tell them in Welsh, we're the British and we're going to step on your throats. And he actually becomes more sympathetic to them, and that's when you see, as Mr. Hillstrom brought up, the BBC getting involved and doing things in Welsh also. Okay, very similar story in Ireland. The British came over and they had all of it at one point, but the northern areas is where industry and mining are. And in World War I, the Irish said, we're not going to help unless you guarantee our freedom. And the British said, okay, because they really needed them. But then after the war, they said, yeah, we're going to give you most of Ireland, the unproductive parts. All right. So up here where there is industry and mining, you're going to see where, same story, the British coming over, about half of the population is either from northern England or Scotland. They're called Scotch Irish. They're called Orangemen, all right, and it goes back to William of Orange, all right. But yeah, you see that in Ireland, though, they're really working on all of their kids learning Gaelic, which is the Irish language. And they're, it's kind of more controversial in the north because the population is 50-50. This is an independent country. This is where Mr. Hillstrom brought up in a previous lecture. They became part of the European Union, and they still are. Northern Ireland is not. They're part of the United Kingdom that went through Brexit, part of the British Empire, or Great Britain that went through Brexit. But during European Union in the 90s, they took out loans and put in new infrastructure, and then all those American pharmaceutical companies and British pharmaceutical companies came there because it's an English-speaking population, even though they're trying to speak Gaelic. They have healthcare, universal health coverage, all right, and an educated workforce.
And that's where Ed Sheeran wrote Galway Girl.
Oh, okay. All right, well, I'm going to be older, show my age. U2 is from Ireland. Oh, we got lots of time. Okay. Alrighty, so here you see isolated languages, and you can see ones that are vibrant. Green is living, and then the yellow ones are in danger. And for us, it's Native Americans. And as I mentioned earlier, if you go to some places, like we would go to a track meet at Idaho State, and when we first started going there, the reservation was so sad. I mean, it was just poor and pathetic. Then they got an Indian gaming casino. So they used to have one government building, you could tell, built right after World War II, and everything happened in there. It was all their school, all of their medicine, everything was in that one government building, and broken windows. It was like, oh my gosh. Then as we went back, they started adding more, then there was a new high school, then there was a new middle school, then a new elementary school, and then they've got a whole preschool that looks like, Irma Reese, but brand new. All right, and what they're doing is not only teaching English and the curriculum, but they're teaching, in this case, Shoshone, which is that local tribe. So, a lot of them are really working to try to bring their languages back. If you ever go to Mount Rushmore, make sure you go to Crazy Horse, and the Lakota, or the Sioux Nation, they're trying to bring back their language right there at a university. Okay? Am I up still?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, here you can see we talked about the Basques in northern Spain and actually the southeastern part of France. And you can see here's Spanish, and then there is Basque. It's unique, there's nothing like it. They've tried to figure out where these people came from. and they're incredible endurance athletes, all right? And you could get back to the whole DNA thing, you know, about in Europe, the Neanderthals and the Homo sapiens, but we tease our bicycle friends that they're so good because they're Neanderthals, and they're like, ha, 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 and then they say bad things in Basque to us, all right? We're learning all the bad words. We still good?
Yeah.
Oh, you're up.
I'm going to jump in and you're going to jump right back. All right. So we've talked a lot about dying languages or endangered languages. Hebrew is an example of a revived language. So in Jesus' day, the priests, the Jews of that time, actually the Jews of that time, everyday people, spoke Aramaic, but the priests spoke Hebrew. Okay, so after Jesus dies and after the diaspora, where the Jews are kicked out of Israel, Hebrew is hardly ever spoken. Okay, so from about the 4th century AD to about 1948, when the state of Israel is created, that language is essentially dead. I mean, it's not been used except for by Orthodox Jews, people who are still practicing the religion. I guess would use that. But in 1948, they established the state of Israel, and there's great pride that the Israelis are going to bring back Hebrew as the official language. There's one small problem though. Okay, we haven't used this language. I mean, the language hasn't developed, right, for thousands and thousands of years. So one specific Rabbi Eliezer ben Huda, okay, look it up. Okay, he added 4,000 new words to the Hebrew dictionary. So words like bus, telephone, okay, internet, all those words there are Hebrew equivalents for. Okay, so
what's cool about that
revived
sign
language
is it's in Hebrew, Arabic, and English.
Right. So that's going to get into religion, right?
And ethnicity.
And then it'll get into ethnicity as well. All right, Mr. Wright, take us on home.
Okay, so here you can see a girl. She's possibly Muslim, very possibly, and she's writing probably in Arabic. But what you're going to see is kids learning more than one language. Okay, all right. So please use your book. Once again, go through, look at all of the maps, the charts, the pictures, read them. If you understand them, then move on. If you don't, look in the writing below in the paragraphs. Look at the end of the chapter, make sure you understand everything. And I'm putting a lot of time into those PDF reviews from the writers of the AP test. And once we get through all of these, we'll do a map session, and then we'll talk about AP test. If you haven't got signed up yet, you know, that your computer checks out, you have that on the AP form, Mr. Hillstrom?
I will go look and put something on there.
But some of you have already done it, all right? Maybe half of you. The other ones, make sure you get that done. Any last words?
Just make sure you guys check into your College Board account. And like Mr. Wright says, look at the PDFs that he's producing. I think I'm in the shot.
I don't think so.
I think I am. Right in front of yeah, I know. Okay. So anyway, check out those PDFs. They're gold. Okay. And like he said, look through the graphs, look through the different charts and things like that. All right. We've got this, and hopefully we'll be communicating with you again soon. Maybe we'll do a Zoom or something like that.
Yeah, once we get through all of these films, we're going to start Zooming you.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, I like that Google Classroom thing.
Okay.
That was pretty sweet.
Might do the Google Classroom.
Okay.
See you next time.